1, 2, testing 1, 2. 1, 2, testing 1, 2, 3.
begun live streaming. Thank you. Members and officers, again, welcome to your November meeting. It's great to see Alderman Jim Spears back with us after a wee time in isolation. And hats off to you, Jim, Alderman Spears. I know it's been a difficult time for yourself, especially with the loss of your good friend and former Ulster Union's councillor, Billy Johnson, who was a former councillor on the Armagh Council. So, Jim, I'm going to ask you to say a few words.
Lord Mayor, first of all, thank you for your kind remarks. I have sort of a feeling that a lot of people thought they were maybe going to get rid of me in some way or another, but things don't work out always to plan. But in any event, I'm particularly pleased to be out and about again and fairly good. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank any of my colleagues and indeed members of staff, and I had many of them from across the place and constituents. I didn't think that people would be as concerned about one of their public representatives as apparently they were. And thankfully, I must say, literally hundreds of people contacted me, and I've had letters and cards and all sorts of things from various parts. And I must say, I really do appreciate the remarks that you have made yourself and other councillors as well. Moving on to a more sombre note, and that is indeed, I mentioned the death of Thomas William Johnson, better known as Willie Johnson. Willie Johnson was a member of Armagh City and District Council from 1983 until 1993. He was a very successful businessman. As a young man, after he came out of education, he went to work for Fairburns, which was a local poultry company. Not for many years he worked there, and then he moved on and set up on his own as a young entrepreneur. And if ever anyone wanted an education on the poultry business throughout the world, it was a conversation with Willie Johnson would have really enlightened you. Many occasions that I spoke to him. He was a good friend of mine. He was a very dedicated Ulster Unionist, being a member of the party for many years, right up until his death, and a very worthy member and subscriber to the party. He gave a lot to the wider community. No one probably could have given more to the economic life. He, like myself, was one of the founder members of Armagh Business Centre in about 1984, I think it was, and has been its only chairman ever since. And it has been providing workspace right down the years and created many opportunities for folk right throughout the Armagh and the wider Armagh community to be a young entrepreneur and set up on their own. It was an incubation place, and it was very successful. Billy has been a tower strength in that. Also in the community life in Market Hill and the wider Armagh area, he played a very extensive part in Market Hill District Enterprise, and the old courthouse was regenerated by that company in which Billy was the lead member. Also, in educational terms, he was chairman of the Board of Governors of both the secondary and the high school, and indeed the primary school in Market Hill for many years, and indeed was dedicated to the success of both those institutes and played a very leading part in them. It's society is the loser with the loss and the death, quite sudden death of a person of the calibre of Willie Johnson. And may I, on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party, express to him, to his wife Muriel and the family, our deepest sympathy at this particular time. And I would ask, Lord Mayor, that you would convey to them our sympathy of this community for what is no doubt a giant within it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman Spears, for that citation. I'm going to bring in Councillor O'Hanlon.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, I want to be associated with the remarks in relation to Willie Johnson and to extend my own sympathies and the sympathies of our group to his wife and wider family. Willie was a character. Alderman Spears said that community life was the loser at Willie's passing. I would say it was the richer for his contribution to community and business life in Market Hill and indeed the wider Armagh. He wasn't afraid to give you a bit of a ribbon about the fact that there was investment going to Katie and Market Hill, or Katie and Rich Hill, and did Councillor Spears forget about Market Hill? But he was always a good friend, and I had the pleasure of working with him through Katie Business Centre, through Armagh Business Centre, and indeed through other community initiatives that he was involved in. And as I said, I want to be associated with the remarks of sympathy to his wider family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Hanlon. I'm going to bring in Alderman Gareth Wilson and then Councillor Brian Pope. Alderman Wilson.
Thank you. Mic hopefully is working. I would just like to also be associated with those remarks, and as a former Armagh City, Banbridge, or Armagh City and District Councillor, we've known Willie Johnson through a number of initiatives that came through that old legacy council, and I always remember him as being someone who was very committed to what he was trying to achieve, no matter what sphere of interest that was in, be it with the school or with the business community in the town. So he certainly is a loss to the area, to the wider Market Hill zone, and I would like to concur with the remarks that have been made in the instance of his very sad passing. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson. I'm going to call upon Councillor Pope, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. On behalf of our Alliance Group, I would also like to offer our sincere condolences to his family and friends at this very difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pope and Councillor Maggle.
Yes, Lord Mayor, just from the Sinn Féin group, just to pass on our sympathies and condolences to the family and friends. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maggle. I personally didn't know Willie, but my thoughts and prayers are with his family at this time. And thank you for your service. Members, you're aware that the CEO of the Southern Trust is leaving us in the new year, Mr. Shane Devlin, who's moving on to pastures new in England. Can I thank him for his service locally and wish him well for his future career. Indeed, the CEO, Roger, and myself had a catch-up meeting with Shane this afternoon, and the chair of the board, Eileen Mullen, where we had the chance to personally thank him and wish him well. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank all our frontline staff, including our nurses, our doctors, and our very own refuse collectors, to name a few, but who have been at the cold front of this pandemic, and apologies for missing anyone out, and you will know who you are, and thank you one and all. I'd also like to ask that we as a society, we do our best to protect our health service, and this can be done through the basic stuff such as just using face coverings, cleaning our hands, and keeping our distance. I'd also like to welcome back our councillors and officers who headed off to the Somme for the centenary of the Ulster Tower, which was opened 100 years ago on Friday. And thank you for representing all our citizens of the borough on your pilgrimage. I'm going to move on to agenda item 1, and apologies. Can I ask for apologies from the floor, please? Okay, nobody's with their lights on, so we'll move on to agenda item 2, council meetings minutes. May I seek a proposal and seconder that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 25th of October 21 can be taken as read and approved as a correct record. proposed by Councillor McKinstry and seconded by Alderman Spears. All agreed? Thank you very much. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. You can take any declarations of interest now or as we come across them throughout the evening. Agenda item 4, committee meeting. Alderman Spears, go ahead.
The planning committee, there's an item of business that I would declare an interest. It's self-explanatory. My name is mentioned, so I would declare an interest as such. Thank you.
Duly noted. Alderman Kennedy.
Just to propose the minutes of the Environment Service Committee and have an item to raise, please, if you have.
Not a problem, Alderman. We'll do that when we come to that in the agenda. Okay. And can I get your seconder for the Committee of Environmental Services, Councillor Greenfield? Happy to second. Thank you. Go ahead, Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Lord Mayor. It's not really putting the officers on the spot now, but just if we could get a few items together for the Environment Committee meeting next week. The transition of the new bins hasn't been as floated as handy as everybody thought. A lot of the calendars that has went out, it's the wrong days. There's an awful people on. There's a few areas hasn't even got their bins yet. So if you could maybe just have a wee bit more information for the Environment Committee, just in what areas and the calendars and related as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Kennedy, and duly noted, and we'll bring that forward. Also, members, if there's anybody with concerns, you can also bring them forward with the addresses and names of who are missing. Councillor McClelland.
Yes, Lord Mayor, thank you for letting me in. I want to raise something under ES 102/2021, the road verge pilot scheme on the planting of the wildflowers. And Lord Mayor, as you know, I raised this under AOB last month because, I think that this is something that I personally am very, very interested in. And I think it has the potential to be a good news story when we think of the biodiversity and the environmental positives that can come out of this particular pilot scheme. And I guess, Lord Mayor, I just wanted to thank the officers, including the head of environment, Barry, for all the work that has been done in the background on this scheme, and indeed for the conversations that I've had with them up until and including even this afternoon regarding this. And Lord Mayor, I would look forward to the report coming to Environmental Services next month. And the thing I would hope for would be that we as a council, that we make sure that we do the job in terms of marketing this, getting it out there, getting it known to the ratepayers that we are doing this, because I cite the Moygannon Road outside of Donaghcloney in my own electoral area. And I mean, I have a farm right adjacent to the area in question. And I didn't know that this was designated as an area of wildflowers. So if I, as the adjacent landowner, don't know, what chance of the ratepayers of this borough knowing? So I would say that we need to be taking steps to make sure that our people know that we are doing this. So I would urge officers to do that, and hopefully that can be included in the report that comes to Environmental Services next week, for the December meeting. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor McClelland. I'm going to bring in Barry Patience, please. You've got your hand up there.
Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Yes, we had a conversation earlier on today, Councillor and I, and yes, those issues will be brought into the full report in December committee, and we'll also include more messages and more publicity around where those locations are. So all that should be addressed on the committee report on the 7th of December. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Barry. I'm going to bring in Councillor O'Hanlon at home, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And just picking up on Councillor Kennedy's point in relation to the bin service, and I had intended to raise it under the confidential items because that's what was raised in committee. Look, there's a considerable amount of homes who still haven't got bins. There are not only that, the problems with the app is dreadful. In that last week, the app for my address was giving me the wrong details. Then at the weekend, it was telling me that that there was going to be no scheduled collection for my area. And then last night, I got a message through the app to tell me to put my bins out for today, which is the wrong day. So it's causing a lot of confusion out there for people. And I'd be grateful if that report could be circulated to all Armagh and Cusher DEA members. I think maybe some of the Portadown members actually link into that area as well. I'd be keen to know how many houses there are still without the bins, and if we could get a detailed report as to when the app will be operational properly. But I can't leave without saying that I know the two girls in the depot in Armagh, in Jennifer and Orla, have been inundated. They have been working to their fingers to the bone. They have been really, really helpful and trying to help out where they can. And I think it's important that we do recognise those who are trying to get the things out there. Okay, we didn't think it would be as plain smooth, but I tell you what, it's a bumpy road that we've come through this last couple of weeks. And to say that I replied to close to 400 Facebook messages on bins alone in the last 10 days. So I think it's something that we really do need to review what went wrong. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I'm going to bring in Alderman Mitri, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. If I can make a reference to ES 101 as well, and it's a fairly loose reference because it refers to trees. Trees produce paper, and all too often paper produces litter. Can I ask that at the Environmental Services Committee next week that a report is brought in relation to the pilot scheme for the private litter enforcement company? I think we're probably about the halfway stage of the year, and it would be good to hear what the figures are and how they deem it successful or otherwise just at this point. Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you, Alderman. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. And I suppose on the back of what Alderman Kennedy has said and Councillor Thomas O'Hanlon, sorry, Thomas, forgot your name there a minute. I totally agree with the sentiments, and I do, along with Jennifer and Orla in the staff, I'd include Mark Bailey, because I rang today and Mark Bailey answered the phone. I think the calls that's coming in, they need a call centre in the Armagh depot. Now, we know this was a mammoth task to convert to the bins in going from the Bryson House to the green bin and the brown bin, etc. But there has been issues, and they've been well talked about tonight: calendars, bins not lifted, bins not delivered, etc. But the big one was the internet. The confusion with the timetable of the internet. The number of people rang me and goes, "When do I put my bins out? This card's saying this date, and the internet says this date." And unfortunately, society as a whole out there believes everything on the internet. If it says on the internet, it has to be true. And unfortunately, they were ignoring their cards and they were going to the internet. And I said, look, believe it or not, ignore the internet, go with your cards. My question is that confusion over? Is that internet sorted? Is the app on the council website now as per the dates on the cards that were delivered to the houses? That's my question for Barry tonight. If we can get that clear. Thanks, Lord Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councillor Nicholson. Barry, do you want to elaborate on that, please?
Yes, Lord Mayor, I'll go through a number of those points. Yes, bumpy road was mentioned there. I think it is a very bumpy road, and you're quite right. We were expecting this to be a bumpy road, and it has been a very bumpy road. I'll start off by commending officers and members for the work that they have done. A number of the members here this evening have indeed passed on information that is very useful to us about people who have missed bins or haven't got their caddies or whatever else. So that is very much appreciative. And it really is supporting us to do that, because yes, our staff are absolutely flat out and are working really hard. And it's not just the ladies in the depot, it's the people behind the scenes with the tech stuff. It's the guys on the ground. There was 22,500 homes now have a brand new system from a Friday to a Monday. There was brand new staff as well on a Monday morning because of the way that we took over from Bryson House. Those staff were to come over. The vast majority came over, but again, we didn't necessarily know that until that Monday morning. So we have new routes, new drivers, new loaders, and new vehicles, as well as the things that we were expecting. And as I said, it's a bumpy road. So we are getting through those things. The app and the calendar were there, as one of the members said, the calendar that was delivered out to people was done under the addresses of LPS, and they were good and did that, and the Royal Mail did that as well. Then if there was an issue with that, we were hoping that the calendars were going to be updated online. That hasn't been as smooth as we had liked. We are working our way through that. It has improved, but it's still not right yet. And we are going to keep working on that with the tech companies. So again, yes, you're absolutely right, members. There has been a number of things that we will learn from this, and we will take going forward, and we will improve. So I can only ask for your patience that continues. I know it has been frustrating for yourselves and the residents, but the staff are working as hard as they can to rectify these things.
Thank you for that update. Barry, you happy enough, Councillor Nicholson? Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Barry.
Right, Lord Mayor, and thank you. And I would like to reiterate Alderman Kennedy's points in relation to this matter and others who've spoken afterwards. It is something that has concentrated our minds and a lot of our time within the Cusher and Armagh DEA areas this past couple of weeks. And I would place on record our thanks to all the staff that are out in the ground, and indeed Jennifer and Olga in Orla in the depot, because they have been inundated as other staff have been. I guess it's one of those situations where you sort of scratch your head and think, well, we knew this was coming. Why were we not sort of ready for this? My understanding last week was that there were still at least 250 homes who still had to have the bins delivered. Now, that was when the service of the brown and the green bins had started. So I would like an immediate report tomorrow in relation to how many houses are left and the plan going forward to see if they're all going to be delivered. And they may already have all been delivered, but I would like to know that as a public representative, because as others have said, we have been totally inundated. I totally appreciate where Barry's coming from, that it was going to be bumpy. Any change, any transition of that scale and nature is going to be difficult, and it's not going to go according to plan. But when the service already starts and there's still bins not delivered, well then quite understandably people are going to be irate and going to be angry. But I think it's important that we lay our record and thanks to the staff. But I would just like an immediate report, as all the councillors would for those areas. And I think if we all received that report as to how many areas and households are left for the delivery of bins, and to be doubly sure and certain that the app that's working and the website is working is all up to date, that people are getting the relevant information, because the amount of times that I'm getting messages from the general public, do you know when our bins are getting lifted, has been unbelievable. And I think that needs to be clear, because we were told 2 weeks ago that it would all be launched at the weekend, and it wasn't launched. And then the information that was launched wasn't correct. So we appreciate it's been bumpy, but I'd like to think she's up to standard now, and I'd like to think that most of the bins, if not all of them, have been delivered.
But finishing on a good note, I got a message from a constituent today, and I've been speaking to others, as I'm sure others have, and they're absolutely delighted with the service that's there. The people that have got their bins and those that have got collected are absolutely happy. And I think one of the last messages was with the hand clap signal, well done ABC. So we'll take that one.
We'll take all the pats in the back. Thank you, Councillor Barry. Are you happy enough with that, or do you even have that knowledge now? You're happy enough tomorrow? Yep, thank you very much. Councillor Alderman Spears and then Alderman Anderson.
Lord Mayor, first of all, I thank Councillor Gordon, Alderman Candy for raising this matter. I have been inundated with, I must say, people, it had become confusing, it really did. And I spoke to Barry a number of times and sent emails, but this thing has not went just according to plan. And I understand that it's a fairly big operation, and yes, you always expect there'll be an odd glitch on the way, and obviously that has happened on this occasion. Yes, I would want to reiterate their support to the staff in the council for, no doubt they were snowed under in relation to this, and our best thanks is due to them. Leading on from what Councillor Barry has just said, I know I'm not a member of the Environment Committee, so I'll not have the opportunity to discuss that detail, as it were, when it comes along. But I honestly believe that we do need to be ahead of the game here and get this out fairly quick. You can't get it out yesterday, but hopefully you'll be able to get it out tomorrow. And I think, in all honesty, it would go some way to allow us maybe, or arm us in a way that we could answer some of the questions and queries that have come. And I have dealt with quite a number of people that have got no notification as regards when their bins are lifting or anything else. So I would like some clarity on that, and I would like it fairly quickly. So thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. And Barry's going to get that report out tomorrow. Alderman Anderson, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I just want to come back on the ES 102, the planting of wildflowers. But before that, can I say reference the changeover of bins as well? In part of my area, there was difficulties, but I would just place on record my thanks to the staff. They very quickly rectified, as far as I was concerned, for those residents. And I would place that on record. I was pretty well pleased, and so were the residents, that those issues were resolved. But in going back to the planting of wildflowers, I thank my colleague, Councillor McClellan, for his efforts on continually bringing this to the fore. And he remarked, I think, that one of the areas identified was beside his adjacent farm. I don't think he was aware of it. Can I just, through you, Lord Mayor, to Barry, maybe can we find out where these areas are that are presently being used for the project, and if there are other areas that's going to be used identified for going forward, just for the benefit of all our councillors here in the areas that they represent? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Alderman Anderson. That's going to be involved in the report. Alderman Garth Wilson, please.
Yep, thank you, Lord Mayor. And I suppose as a councillor within that area, I was feeling a bit left out there, so I thought I better make my own comments on the matter as well. And I suppose going way back a number of weeks, our house got double the bins delivered. So, and that was simply due to one team delivering bins and then another team. And there was an issue with just the overlap of roads. So some of the issues have been just quite simple mistakes, which are understandable. And then I think the biggest issue, as has been said, has been the assurances given by different IT companies that haven't then came up trumps, as the saying goes. So those are things I'm not particularly keen on blaming council solely on. So just to make that clear, I think council had a good number of preparations in place. And I know other people have been manually trying to update the various online systems that the council has to enable people who, for other reasons, haven't got their calendar in paper format, and they're able to go online and get that detail through the Find Your Bin Day system on the website without going near the app. So that's another option as well. It's one I have used and pointed other people to, and with their postcodes have been able to find their bin day for them. Had one complaint there just came in. Someone's bin has been told it's going to be lifted on a Sunday, and I would be doubtful that that is the case. But maybe Barry could elaborate on that. I wasn't sure. Maybe that's just a sort of an interim thing to get bins tidied up in the short term. But it's showing on the actual app, I think, that it is a Sunday lift, which it would be doubtful it is, for I wasn't aware that the bins were lifted on a Sunday, or maybe I've missed something. But if Barry could just maybe give me a bit of detail on that. And also, just again, thanks to the team in the depot for, I must have sent them over, I don't know, hundreds of emails for, and they've all been dealt with, thankfully, bar a few. So thanks for that effort.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson. Technology is good when it works. Barry, do you want to comment on that? On the Sunday lift?
Yes, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Alderman Wilson, for those comments. Yeah, the Sunday lift is there, and we're working on changing that. No one's getting their bins lifted on a Sunday, I can assure you. That is that there is a problem with that postcode, and we are then addressing that. In relation to the postcodes are linked to LPS, and as members will be well aware, anyone who's on planning committee or in building control committee, LPS are not 100% correct. So that's why an odd person will have had their calendar not delivered. And as Alderman Wilson says, then if they go on to that, that should help them out. We are still working on that. And as Alderman Wilson said as well, we have our own staff working on that, as well as the companies who have been involved. And we, like yourselves, were told it would happen. Again, we'll learn from these things, and we'll improve that going forward. But no, there'll not be any bins left on a Sunday. If someone gets that message that their bins on a Sunday, if they just let us know, and then we'll give them their proper days, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for clarifying that, Barry. And Councillor Keating.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. And listen, don't want to unduly labour the point. Most of us are having made there, but what I would be keen to, I suppose, get across is the report that does come from this, that organisational learning is the key to it, and that we not just document the logistics of where things went wrong, but our processes and what could be improved, and how, if the council is going to undertake another major structural change like this, that we learn from the lessons of this, because as everybody quite rightly has mentioned, we did get an awful lot of feedback, not all of it positive, but the new bins are great, and it's a big improvement, I think, than what the old service was. But again, it is important that we learn from whatever has went wrong in some parts of it, and that's kept as an organisation to improve that.
Thank you for that, Councillor. So we have a proposer by the Chairman, Alderman Kennedy, and second by Councillor Greenfield. Are we all agreed that the minutes are accurate? Thank you. Okay, agenda item 4.2. I seek a proposal and second that the minutes of the Planning Regulatory Service Committee held on 3rd of November 21 be taken as read and approved as a correct record. Councillor Lavery, you're the chair.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Is happy to propose.
Thank you, Councillor, and Councillor Nicholson. Yeah, seconded. We all agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much, members. Move on to 4.3 on the agenda. Can I take a proposal and second that the minutes of the Leisure and Community Services Committee held on the 8th of November be taken as read and approved as a correct record? Councillor Hockin, you're the chair.
So proposed.
Sorry, Lord Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Cosby.
Thank you. I have an item for accuracy, if possible. It's just a very minor thing, but it is on just.
Whereabouts is it? Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, it's LCS at 184/2020. Just under that, and before I made my remarks on page 2, the very first line, page 2, extended by Councillor Cosby's best wishes to Alderman Spears for speedy recovery, and that his period of isolation ended in good health. that doesn't read quite correctly, and I believe the comments were to the effect that Councillor Cosby sent his best wishes to Alderman Spears for a speedy recovery and hoped that his period of isolation ended with him in good health. Thank you.
Duly noted, Councillor Cosby. Thank you very much, Councillor Cosby, duly noted. And thank you, Councillor Hoggan. Councillor Tennyson, you're the Vice Chair.
Happy to second, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to bring in Councillor Ian, or Alderman Ian Burns.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My issues with LCS 189/2021 certainly support the context of the community awards, where people are recognised for their voluntary contribution to the community. But I think under the current format, that doesn't do this. What it does is takes nominations and puts them into a competition where one person will walk away with a community award. I don't think that's right. I know in the legacy Banbridge Council area, we had criteria set where people nominated lots of people for their work in the community. And if they met the criteria, then they were all awarded the same award. I think it's not a good thing to get nominations for a community award. It's not a sports thing. It's not a competition. I think people should be recognised for their voluntary commitment to the community and all get the same award, providing they fit the criteria. To give it to one person out of many nominees, how does that make them feel going home? I was nominated, but I'm not good enough or as good as somebody else. I think when it comes down to it, if somebody has worked in the community and they're nominated for an award and there's a criteria that's followed, I think anyone who comes up with it should have the same award. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Alderman Burns. And being a former Banbridge councillor myself, I'm very sympathetic to what you're saying, and I do support what you're saying. Councillor Lavery, you're in first. Are you on the same subject?
Well, yeah, it was sort of on the sort of voluntary issue, and sort of indulge me a bit, Lord Mayor. It's just in relation to the event that was held in South Lake Leisure Centre in aid of children in need. It's just to thank all the South Lake Leisure Centre.
Councillor Lavery, we'll come back to that. There's a few other lights on here.
Oh, no worries. Thank you.
Councillor Flaherty, on the same agenda as Alderman Burns? No. Alderman Spears? Alderman Spears, go ahead.
Okay. Lord Mayor, just in relation to the point that has been raised by Alderman Burns, earlier today, I had a phone call from Godfrey McCartney in relation to this matter. And I must say, I'm not an expert in the criteria of these awards. I know that in the Legacy Armagh Council, we had a system. Truthfully, if I was asked for details of it, I would be absent, as it were, in detail as to how it operated. I do know that there was a system and it seemed to work. Now, how it worked, I'll not be perfectly sure. Now, when I spoke to Godfrey this morning, Godfrey outlined to me what, in fact, was his suggestion, or was the suggestion that was coming forward. And I didn't get too much involved. I said, okay, right, I'm happy enough, or by and large happy enough. But then later on, I had a phone call from my friend and colleague, Councillor Burns, who is well aware of the criteria, very much involved in what happened in the Legacy Banbridge Council. And he made a few very valuable points to me as regards the nature of how these community awards worked in that council. Now, we move on, and we all move on, and I understand that. But I think, in all honesty, what he has said does warrant some discussion at officer level to tease it out a little further to see, is there a way whereby it can be accommodated. I think it's not unreasonable if there's a criteria that people have to apply to. If they meet the criteria and they're eligible, well, I think there must be a way forward whereby we can look at that. That's all the point I want to make in relation to it. Just maybe some further investigations and indeed maybe some further discussion as to what happened in other councils, that we can end up with maybe a better system than we have, or a better system that existed elsewhere as we move forward. That's all I'd say. Thank you, Chair. Lord.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. Councillor Flaherty, you signalled that you want to speak on the same item.
I don't press anything, do I? Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just on that item, I had a number of conversations lately about this. Actually, I didn't realise it was going to be raised this evening. As a former Lord Mayor, and you now know yourself, there's requests constant for recognition, and there are criteria for those. So there probably is something already in place, and that we don't need to complicate things with. But I think back into before my time in Craigavon Council, where they had the Mayor's Award, so there have been other ways of doing this. On saying that, I don't think in my term as Lord Mayor, the Community Awards actually happened. I think it was maybe I missed the year. I don't think it's every 2 years. So I didn't have the experience of it. But I do know, and I think we all do from the groups that do participate in it, they just love it. It really does bring something different to the community. So I think it needs thought about and not overcomplicated, and let's not get caught up in the weeds in it. Perhaps would be my comment on that. What I actually wanted to say is actually in regard to another issue. Am I allowed to bring that in at this juncture, or it's only very quick?
Go quickly.
It's LS 185/2021. It was just something I had raised in said committee regarding fundraising events and the fees that are charged to some groups for fundraising events. Now, it's noted very clearly on that I was to get a response. I have had media blackout. I haven't had a response at all. I don't know if any other member has. Now, it does say, but that's beside the point. We'll keep chasing these answers. That seems to be the way of things at the minute. But it does say that there will be a report brought to committee. I just want clarity that will actually, a report, and that will come to December's. Maybe somebody from that committee here can just tell me that that's the case.
Duly noted. Thank you, Councillor Flaherty. I'm going to bring you in now. Seamus, thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And just picking up on the points that have been raised around the community awards, obviously the principle of the community awards, and as officers we do look forward to being able to deliver the event in the early part of next year. And there are a series of options that can be considered. This work and the review work in terms of community awards is ongoing. There's further reports to come back to December. So my suggestion is just to revisit in a little bit more detail, because there are different complications with regards to different options that exist. And I totally accept the need to keep things simple and straightforward. And the fundamental principle of where we are, particularly at this stage with COVID, is the importance of recognising the fabulous community effort that there has been to respond to that. And that will be our focus. And as officers, we will complete more work, and we will come back in December and discuss that. And there are particular details that I think we can talk in more detail at committee.
Thank you very much, Seamus. I know this year is going to be exceptional from the COVID response. Councillor Lavery, over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It was just to put our thanks as an organisation to the staff at South Lake Leisure Centre and Cafe Incredible, who on Friday there hosted a Children in Need fundraising event, where they invited, I think it was Connor Phillips and his Radio Ulster show down to the site and did a wee spin-a-thon and everything to raise money. And it really was a fantastic event with a great atmosphere, and certainly one of the highlights of South Lake so far. So just to pass our thanks on to everyone involved in the organisation of that event, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Eamon McNeill, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's just asking for clarification back on 189 there. I had asked for clarification and nominations were closed for these awards, and I just want to know, has this decision been made yet on that date? And thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bring in Seamus. Can you answer that one?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. In terms of the date for the awards, the date has not been set yet, but we would expect with other awards happening in February with regards to business awards that the community awards will be in March. But again, we're bringing that item back in December and we'll agree final detail with members.
Thank you very much, Seamus. Okay, members, we have a proposal and seconder. Are we all agreed? Agreed, thank you. Okay, item 4.4, can I take a proposal and seconder? The minutes of the Economic Development Regeneration Committee held on the 9th of November can be taken as read and approved as a correct record. Councillor Michael Linden, you were not there, sadly. Alderman Moutry, you're the chair of the committee at that time. Proposed by Alderman Moutry. Can I get a seconder for somebody that was there? Councillor Greenfield has seconded. Thank you very much. Going to bring in Councillor Kelly, you looking in? Kyle Salvage?
Just a second, that, Lord Mayor, you're okay.
No problem. Thank you very much. Councillor Causeway?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. EDR 159-2021. It is an item on urban centres. Update now. Note that the update, there's no discussion about the update in the minutes. However, I do want to just raise an issue in relation to it because the section under urban centre identities and what they would look like, I want to just raise the issue of Portadown. Portadown has traditionally been known as a market town, and I think it would be remiss of us not to consider, whilst looking at this, the fact that Portadown has a market. However, some of those traders have been displaced. And I know the tender process has been open and closed for provision of market and things like that, but I would hope that we would continue on to make sure that we can create a sustainable urban centre for Portadown to include a market provision undercover. And I know there is potential for some work to be undertaken in McGowan West, and I would hope that we would be able to factor that in to make sure that we would be able to have a covered market area, and that we certainly look forward with that in mind. So if we could try and keep that on the agenda to move it forward. I did miss the Town Centre Task Force meeting that was held last week due to family illness, and I did have a brief conversation with Helen and the folks there as well. So just to note the comments and hope that we will revisit this again in terms of provision in Portadown for a covered market, and to look again at the regeneration of the town centre with the inclusion of a farmer's market or such like within any of the proposals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cosby. Duly noted. Going to bring in Alderman Spears.
Hey. Lord Mayor, I'm not sure, I don't know whether this item is not on the agenda, but as you will well remember, and other members will remember as well, my interest in Loughgall and Offby at Loughgall. Now, in that particular context, I note in the press that Councillor McLennan has been appointed to the board of Offby. And on that score, I would take this opportunity, number one, to congratulate him, and number two, to by and large charge him with a responsibility, as it were. Loughgall is, and Offby at Loughgall is a very, very important feature of the landscape of agriculture and agricultural science and whatever in this area and indeed in Northern Ireland. And as I am well aware and have kept in close contact with Offby at Loughgall for the last 20 plus years, and indeed have spoken to the chief executive of late in relation to potential developments and potential issues there at that site at Loughgall. Now, on that particular score, it is particularly gratifying that we have someone with the interest and involvement of Councillor McClellan on that particular board. And I know he will have a provincial view in relation to other matters, but I would ask him to always remember it's the home scene that matters most. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. A bit of good cross-community stuff there. Councillor McClellan, do you want to come in there?
Yes, indeed, Lord Mayor. And can I very sincerely thank Alderman Spears for his good wishes on my recent appointment, and can I assure him as someone who is steeped in both County Armagh and in agriculture, and who has links with AFBI at Loughgall through various staff over the years, that it will be something that I will keep uppermost in my mind as I serve on the board. And can I thank Alderman Spears again?
Thank you very much, members. For those at home, there's plenty of smiles going on in the chamber. Members, we're going to move on. Are we all agreed on that item? On the minutes? Thank you. Move on to 4.5. Can I seek a proposal and seconder that the minutes of the Governance and Resources and Strategy Committee held on the 10th of November 21 be taken as read and approved as a correct record? Councillor McClellan, you're the chair of committee.
Yes, Lord Mayor, happy to propose.
Thank you very much. And Alderman Twyvell, you're the vice chair.
Happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We all agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you. Move on to agenda item 5, Chief Executive's report. 5.1 is an item for decision, and it is Born to Run event. And Jonathan Hayes, Head of Estates and Management, is going to present this report.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. Members, the report for you tonight is in relation to a request that officers received regarding an event at Loughgall Country Park on the 27th of November in relation to the event is Born to Run. It is a 5-10K event, and members, I would seek your recommendation, your approval for the recommendation as outlined in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I'm going to bring in Councillor Nicholson.
Thanks, Lord Mayor, and thanks, Jonathan, the report. And I'm happy to propose, Chair. I don't think there's any issue. I think it's something we support, in relation to our borough. A lot of outdoor events, 10Ks, 5Ks, all good for keep our borough fit. So absolutely, it's something I can support. I'm happy to propose, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nicholson. And Councillor Cosby.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And whilst in principle of no issue with it, I'm happy to second it. But what I would just want to kind of tease out here a second is that there's no mobile vendor situated in Loughgall Country Park, according to the report. An request for permission to have one mobile vendor to be on site for the duration of the event. Are the event organizer going to bring the vendor? How does that work? I am conscious that there are local businesses in the village and quite a busy coffee shop there in the village as well that may not benefit in terms of the event itself, in terms of the number of people coming into Loughgall. And I would hope that, maybe we should consider the way we have with other parks and facilities, looking at provision of, better provision for vendors within the park going forward. I know there is a small shop there and bits and pieces, but if you look to the likes of the Gosford facilities and vendors in other parks, maybe this is something we should be considering further to increase footfall and add to the amenity of Loch Gaw. But happy to second the proposal as it stands.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Cosby. Jonathan, do you want to come in there?
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Councillor Cosby, for the question. Firstly, yes, this is a one-off event that the organisers will bring the vendor in for this occasion, and certainly happy to explore the possibility of some of the options that you know here tonight. So we're certainly happy to take those on board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. So we have a proposed by Councillor Nicholson, second by Councillor Cosby. Are we all agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much, members. And move on to agenda item 6, schedules of correspondence 6.1 to 6.4. These are for noting, members. However, I am happy enough to take anybody who wants to make a comment. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. And just want to comment on its 6.3, which is obviously the leaving of Nilga by Derek McCallan. And I see he's written to you, Lord Mayor, letting you know, obviously, he has enjoyed his time, obviously working with us as a council, and he's moving on to other things. Now, Lord Mayor, I would request you reply to, I'm sure you will reply to that letter, because, as I say, I've got to know Derek very well. As the chair of the Ulster Unionist Councillors Association, I have to say I find Derek very professional and very personable, and a really good guy. In fact, he helped me a lot in the recent PAN that was brought out through the DFI, and lobbied very hard on the behalf of all our councils to have it removed, which obviously was successful. So, Lord Mayor, I just want to put on record my thanks to Derek for his time in Nilga and the assistance he's given me and the help. And I'm sure, Lord Mayor, you will write a letter to Derek thanking him in the proper manner. So that's all I want to say, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nicholson. Indeed, I will send a letter off to him. And just as we talk about part-time speed limits at schools, it's absolutely fantastic from my perspective, because I've been lobbying hard for these to happen in the Banbridge area, as well as throughout the ABC Council area for several years, and I'm absolutely delighted to see more, but obviously more can be done, and I'm going to bring in Councillor McKinstry, who wants to talk on the same item.
Yes, thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Thank you. Yes, I have been lobbied by a couple of local primary schools in my area regarding this reduced speed limit in the vicinity of the schools. And they are really disappointed that they weren't considered in this scheme. I'm delighted, that for the schools that were considered, but there are other schools who have fallen outside the criteria, whatever they may be. And I'm sure there's not just the couple of schools that have lobbied me. I'm sure there's other schools in the borough who are similarly disappointed, and I'm wondering if I could make a proposal that we write a letter, maybe gather together the names of some of these schools and just ask for them to be reconsidered for this temporary reduction in speed limit around their areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McKinstry, and I'd be happy enough to second that proposal. I believe it is incumbent on us to keep that pressure on, and I know there's a number of schools in my own area still haven't received that, and we need to keep that pressure on. And some of the excuses coming back from DFA are just not, they can't stand. And I know financially they're not in a good place, but we still have to keep the priority of our children and your children at the top of the agenda. Members, we have an awful lot of people here looking to speak, so I'm going to sort of maybe go alphabetically here. Councillor Pope, go ahead.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My point is on 6.4 on the letter with regards to the A1 Junctions Phase 2 improvement works. As we can see, the public inquiry was held back in March 2020, And therefore it's absolutely essential that the Department for Infrastructure progresses these works as soon as possible. I mean, the fact that they're proposing now a different type of concrete vehicular barrier in the central reservation, I think just highlights the urgent need of improved safety on this dangerous road. So we would certainly urge the Department for Infrastructure to progress these ASAP. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pope. I'm going to bring in Councillor Kyle Savage.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And just to support about the primary schools, so it is. And I think even if you would be happy to amend your proposal and to include all primary schools, I think that's the simple way of doing this right across the board, because I, like many other councillors, have been lobbied, from rural schools and all of that. And I think it's important that there should be a 20-mile-an-hour slot on every school, and that's it. It's a simple way of doing it. But just to move on to Councillor Pope's proposal there, I'm happy to second that, because the A1 carriageway, which I live close by, is dangerous. We all know it is, and this has been hanging about for a long period of time now, and we do need work done ASAP. I was involved in a near miss a few weeks ago there myself on it, and I know just how dangerous these central reservations are, and we do need to get this moving ASAP, and whatever pressure we can put on, we should put on. So happy to second that, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Savage. Councillor McKinstry, are you happy enough to include all schools? So members, if we compile a list, if you could send it into member services so that we get that list, and we'll do that as a one or as a corporate entity. Thank you very much. Alderman Gareth Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. It was just for a broad welcome to the news for the Tandregee Primary School, and the fact that both the Ballymore Road and the Portadown Road are going to be served by those temporary 20-mile-an-hour limits. And I fully concur with what has been said. It is something we'd like to see at all schools, but I suppose we appreciate it started out as a tester, and then it has rolled out to a more significant piece of work, and we welcome that, and hopefully that work can continue, to bring it into scope in terms of Tandregee. That Tandregee Junior High is now covered at the minute with the temporary 20-mile-an-hour limit, and now the other school, the primary school, will be covered. So that's the town in terms of primary school provision, and of course the Kids Academy there just opposite Tandregee Primary School is covered as well. So it's a pretty comprehensive package for the town in terms of speed limits. And I know in terms of the Portadown Road, there's a number of issues with the traffic lights being ignored, and kids and parents and that with near misses, which is always a huge concern. So the flashing lights, the additional signage is all going to help, and I certainly welcome it. I would like to see, obviously, more schools mentioned in the next dispatches, but we will continue to lobby, as has been said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alderman. I'm going to bring in Councillor Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. Just want to echo everybody's comments, welcoming the temporary speed signs. I know myself, living on the Craigavon Road in Banbridge, just up the road from St Patrick's College, the Craigavon Road is, some days it's like a racetrack, and I've witnessed a few near misses myself with kids crossing the road at school starting times and home times. So very much welcome those signs being placed there. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I've just received a note there. Councillor McKinstry, can you physically say that you're happy enough to include all schools in your proposal?
Yes, I'm happy to include all schools in my proposal.
Thank you, and I'm happy to second that. Thank you very much. Alderman Spears.
I'm quite sure, Lord Mayor, you'll not be surprised. And I mean, this list that is provided, I'm not so sure how new it is. I know that there was Tandregee Secondary School, I think, was mentioned probably in a list earlier on. But I speak with someone who travels a road, and it's adjacent to our new play area in Market Hill. And I can't believe that it is not as yet on a list. It's at a very, very, very busy shopping centre, and it's on a fairly wide open road. And I have asked that this location, Market Hill Primary School, be number one considered for the 20 mile an hour limit, and equally the secondary school for a 30 mile an hour limit. And I hope that members will accept that and put that forward if we're writing to a department in relation to this. Thank you.
Duly noted, Alderman Spears. Back onto Zoom. Alderman Ian Burns, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's to do with the A1 junctions phase 2 improvements. I would like that if we are writing to the Department for Infrastructure, that we ask them to carry out make the flyovers as soon as possible. We need the central reservation closed off, because even though it's a dual carriageway, people treat it like a motorway, but lots of vehicles come out onto from by roads and just drive straight onto the carriageway. So I think it's vital that we ask them to try and speed up the infrastructure being put across the roads, the new flyovers, as soon as possible. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Alderman Burns. Duly noted. Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you for letting me in. Could I also just put in record my best wishes to Derek also, and be associated with the remarks by Councillor Nicholson. He's certainly very helpful to me when my time on the partnership panel. But I just thank Councillor McKinstry for bringing her proposal here tonight. I was thinking especially of in recent days been lobbied quite by a number of families in relation to Ballydown Primary School, quite worried with the speed of traffic goes up that road, and especially with the Game of Thrones and the potential increased traffic and out there. So we just make sure that's included. And thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Greenfield. Alderman Mitri.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Could I be associated with the remarks in relation to Derek McCallan? As Chair of the Economy and International Affairs Group in Nilga, I have worked closely with Derek over this past number of years, and he has really been a fearless advocate for local government, and we'd be greatly missed and very difficult to replace. And I wish Derek, like other members here, all the very best for the future. Can I also speak in relation to school, the 20 mile an hour speed limits outside schools? While yes, we welcome this, I have great concerns in relation to two of the biggest schools in Lurgan, namely primary schools, Kings Park and Tannochmore, where I've had representation over this past number of weeks. Kings Park, there have been recently a couple of incidents which have almost involved children, and indeed the patrolman been knocked down on the Avenue Road in Lurgan, and really you take your life in your hands. And I really just want to make an appeal here to people that are driving in that area. We're into the darkest days of winter. Children are almost going to school in the dark and coming home almost in the dark. And while we won't have a 20 mile an hour speed limit outside these schools this year, hopefully we will very soon. But I would ask that people are very careful in relation to their speeds around schools, and also how they park around primary schools, because sometimes the parking is quite deplorable. Over this past number of weeks, I have met with the Roads Department, the PCSP and the police, and the police have a role to play here as well, policing in the area. And I have stood up there for a couple of mornings recently and watched, and it really, you take your heart in your mouth, so you would, when you see what's going on sometimes. And I hope that common sense will prevail all around. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Mitri. Councillor Macaulay.
Yep. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, thank you. Now, just to say well done to yourself and Councillor McKinstry in bringing that proposal forward on the school speed limits. I think very much support of that. I think Ballydown, as Councillor Greenfield's already said, is one of those particular schools that I've been lobbied heavily on as well, and they've just been continually unsuccessful because they're falling short of the criteria. So well done on that one. It was just really to say then I also support Councillor Pope's support really just on that proposal on the A1 junctions. I think after the 20th of October, that serious crash near the boulevard as well. I think it's imperative that this is pushed hard and prioritised as a matter of urgency. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Macaulay. Councillor Cosby.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And again, just to be associated with the comments in relation to Derek McCallum. He has been fearless. Indeed, as Alderman Mitchell says, an advocate for local government, and we appreciate the lobbying and the efforts he's made on our behalf. Just in relation to the part-time speed limits at schools, I think rather than go around the houses on this, just to welcome the Clowney Junior High one there from on the Brownstown Road. I likely will live within that 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And believe me, it will make life much, much easier and safer for the young people who are crossing the Brownstown Road, both at the traffic lights at Rectory and Brownstown Park, but also for the patrolman there at the entrance into Brownstown Estate at Clowney Park and Glandore Gardens. It's really, really important, and because it's a really long stretch of road and cars do go quite a pace at that particular time, all the time actually. In fact, I can hear yet the cars roaring past the house as we speak. So it is important we do that. Just to say in relation to all schools, not all schools will be requiring a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Some are in very heavily built up housing estates, things like that. And certainly I'm thinking of the likes of Millington Primary School. The parking issue is much more pronounced than speeding at the school. And it is maybe not one that would come anywhere close to meeting any criteria. So maybe all schools aren't necessarily an issue for speeding, but most definitely most of them are for parking, that is for sure. And I take Alderman Moutry's points in relation to that, particularly if we look at Millington Primary School in the mornings. And again, in terms of how some of the parking is done, I also would reiterate that people do be courteous, because there's not a chance that emergency vehicles would get through at certain times of the morning and if something should occur. And indeed, I did have occasion to try and search one morning for the driver of an abandoned vehicle, as they had blocked me in whilst I was trying to get my mother out to an emergency appointment at the hospital. And it took some time to locate the person. And sometimes there's just no thought for the residents whilst trying to get kids to school. So maybe some more courtesy on the part of some of the parents parking at schools would go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cosby. Members, can I remind you to send your list into Democratic Services so that we can compile that list, and that list will go off to DFA. If your school is not on that list, it won't be included. And then Councillor Tennyson, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yeah, it was just on the issue of the 20-mile-per-hour speed limits as well. I welcome the latest rollout from the Minister, and I share some of the frustration of other members that we haven't been able to move faster on this. But it was just to ask if we could add into the letter that's being sent, just for an update in terms of what expressions from schools the department is currently aware of or considering, and also if there are currently any plans to roll out with a phase 3. I think that is the case, but just if they have a timeline or anything at this stage. And also if they could provide any clarity just around the criteria that they are using, I think that would be helpful for us as members. I know we'll send our list into Democratic Services, but there are other schools. I mean, Bridge Integrated has been campaigning very heavily around this. St Mary's Primary School in Mahray. We've had representation from Ballydown, from Kings Park, from Tullamore. I mean, we could go on and on. So I think this does need to be a real priority, and that letter proposed by Councillor McKinstry will certainly be an important step. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor McElrath, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And listen, I'm not labour the point around road safety in our schools, but obviously that's really, really important, particularly for all of our members here. I just want to welcome those 20 mile an hour speed limits that are already up and running in our area, and indeed adding to it. And the sooner we have all of the schools covered, the better. But one wee point that I just want to make, and that's around our speed indicator devices that the PCSP have got operational again across many areas of the ABC Council. And one very important thing, and members should bear in mind, and I'm sure you do, that whilst those are not legally enforceable, they do record data. And that data is showing some startling statistics, including one of our villages, one of our towns, where a speed of 91 mile an hour was recorded at 145 during the day, close to a school. So those are the kinds of data and information that our members can work on as well to really evidence, as it were, the installation. Some of the members talked about different schools where there's real problems there. So that's something, we can, members can lobby for more of those devices to be rolled out, and hopefully PCSP will do that. But also the data that's being recovered from some of those devices, whilst also encouraging data where average speeds are down, then the high speeds are also something that could be very useful for members when they're lobbying as well, and council. So just making that point, Lord Mayor, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McElrath, for that information. One of the inspectors was informed about that speed. Councillor Nicholson, you looking back in? Go ahead.
Just briefly, Lord Mayor, obviously one associated with the comments that were made, and in particular I want to thank you and Councillor McKinstry for bringing this matter up, and I do think it needs to be made forcibly to you. You can't sort of run, kind of like a Russian roulette with kids' lives. You know what I mean? Like I do agree with the members saying this should be in all schools, and it should be made paramount, especially the rural schools. If you go in as a rural school to try and get this, you're shut down straight away. Like I know rural schools where they use the road between them as a sort of a rat run, and the speeds that are recorded on that road as a rural road would scare you, Lord Mayor. So look, definitely it's great that you have brought this forward and fully support it, and I will get my list into member service. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nicholson. There's going to be plenty of letters being sent. Move on to agenda item 7, schedule of documents requiring corporate seal. Can I get a proposal for 7.1 and 7.3 to sign and seal all the aforementioned documents? Proposed by Councillor Nicholson and seconded by Councillor Flaherty. We all agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much, members. We're going to move into confidential business. Can I seek a proposal and second to go into committee for consideration of confidential items of business? Proposed by Alderman Kennedy and seconded by Alderman Spears. Thank you very much, members. Members and listeners to the audio feed in accordance with Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into confidential session of the council. This means that we'll be turning off the live public audio feed of the meeting. And this will be turned back on when the meeting is restarted. Can I ask ACT officers to please turn off the audio feed and confirm with me that the confidential section of the meeting can proceed. it is okay to proceed with the meeting. Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item 11. Councillor Nicholson on the significant increase in energy costs. Go ahead, Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, for allowing me to bring this AOB to the council. Look, we're all aware of the significant, I think everybody, in their own homes and beyond, the rise in energy costs that's happening at the moment out within our community. And our party brought a motion forward calling for urgent action to be taken to address the energy cost increases and provide a winter emergency fund. And that was received support from all parties. So I'm hoping this will run smoothly, Lord Mayor, tonight. And my proposal, Lord Mayor, and I hope you can forward the ink, is to write a letter to the Minister and the Department of Communities and asking her to work with her officials to basically develop proposals to support this financial hardship fund, but also, Lord Mayor, to form dare I use it, a task force, Lord Mayor, to sort of try and be more proactive rather than reactive. I know these things are difficult, but I think there does need to be some blue sky thinking, because the energy costs, as far as I can see, are not going to be decreasing anytime soon. And I think there's no doubt it's a major concern for so many people in our borough. There's no time to waste, Lord Mayor. Obviously, we're coming to Christmas and there's families and individuals who are facing a very challenging winter ahead and they need support urgently. And we've all heard the saying, there's people out there are having to make an awful decision to either switch on the heat or eat. And I think, Lord Mayor, you in your position as civic leader of the ABC, I think a letter from you on behalf of the borough would be great to go forward and some more support that position and outline the issues that the people are facing on the ground today. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much for bringing that proposal, Councillor. As we know, we're moving into difficult times, especially with the price of oil, petrol, even food. Everything seems to be creeping up slowly but surely. I'm going to bring in Councillor Tennyson. And Councillor Tennyson, as you can see, there's no numbers on the side of the bar, so I hope you can stand corrected from earlier on and I'll let you in. Thank you.
Lord Mayor, it's actually on a separate point. It's a point of order, but I'm happy to wait until after this debate on this item if you want to bring me in afterwards. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Cosby, go ahead.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I think you're doing a fine job chairing, and I just appreciate that I'm getting the opportunity to speak in the chamber, never mind the order. The issue that Councillor Nicholson has raised is a fairly pertinent one, and I'm happy to support the writing of a letter, no issue. So if it's required somebody to second it, I'm happy to do that. And hope that you get the time to write all of the letters that you now need to write. But just to say, and I've spoken to Seamus about this, and I'm hoping that this is going to come through the Finance Assistance Working Group. And just to say that currently our community and voluntary groups are allowed to reprofile up to 15% of the grant awarded to them via finance assistance policy. But for those groups who are in receipt of finance assistance policy for core running costs, and I want to declare an interest as a group, as the chief executive of one of the groups that do hold this grant. However, this does not apply to us because we have our costs covered for the year. I am conscious, however, though, that there are groups out there who are finding it very difficult to meet the increase in heating costs, be that gas or oil, and also now with the projected price rise in electricity. And I would seek approval, or at least agreement by council, that we would permit those groups or at least even for this discussed at a finance assistance policy working group, if we permit those groups rather than reprofile 15%, but they would be allowed to reprofile up to 25% of their budget, provided it was to cover heat and light costs due to the increase this year, to take the pressure off them. So, for example, if a group is stationary and they don't need it, they've got enough from last year, that money could be profiled at the rate of 25% of the overall budget contribution. Seamus will probably understand the workings of that probably than most of us, but it's just to allow that for groups. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cosby. Alderman Mitri, do you want to come in on your proposal to speak about vandalism in Lurgan Park?
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I'll be as brief as possible. It was drawn to my attention at the weekend that the new playground in Lurgan Park was closed all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And given the fine weather that we had at the weekend, it was a shame that children weren't able to access it. And this was because of vandalism, which occurred, we think, at some time late on Friday night. Now, really, it concerns me. I spoke to a member of staff who indicated that there are regularly young people in the park after hours. And really, when you think we're down, it's closing at 6 o'clock at night now, I think we need to try and turn the tables here, and there needs to be an element of fear on the young people that are going in and vandalising the children's playground. And I would just ask that officers take this on board and that officers do what they can in relation to the park staff around this, but also there needs to be an involvement of the PSNI here, because it's unacceptable when you come to a weekend like we had. The weather was beautiful all weekend. People came down. I know one pair of grandparents came from Monaghan to take their grandchildren down the park and went down and the playground's closed and they just had to do whatever else. It's quite shameful. It needs to be dealt with, and we need to take the upper hand here and instill a little bit of fear into the thugs that are doing this in the park. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Alderman Mitri. I'm going to bring in Councillor McKinstry.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And yes, I'd like to come in behind Alderman Mitri's comments there. It's such a shame that this beautiful park in our borough and the money that was spent on updating the play equipment there. And this isn't the first incident of vandalism on the park since it has been reopened. And it's just so frustrating. And I know us as elected members, we have met with the PCSP. We have discussed ways of tackling antisocial behaviour in the area. And really, it's just so disappointing and frustrating that this continues to happen. So thank you very much for raising this, Alderman Mitri, and thank you for letting me in.
Thank you very much, Councillor McKinstry and Alderman Mitri, for bringing this to the council. And I see Mark's going to look at it and bring forward a report on it. So I'm going to bring in Councillor Lavery. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Just to back up Alderman Mitri and Councillor McKinstry on this issue. I know it's been going on for a number of months, and I know that the trampoline in the play park has been out of action for a couple of months due to antisocial behaviour previously this summer and still not been repaired. Could that be included in the report on this matter as well? Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Duly noted, Councillor. Thank you very much. I'm going to go back to Councillor Tennyson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lord Mayor, for bringing me back in. It's a point of order in relation to Standing Order 21.1, mode of address, which states that while a member is speaking, other members should show respect. It's a far cry from what we just witnessed in the confidential section of the meeting when during a vote, a member, I'm not sure which member, uttered a profanity in the direction of my colleague Councillor Lavery as he cast his vote. Now, members, I'm up for debate. I'm up for political debate, all of that. But no one comes to this chamber to be bullied, to be denigrated, or to be abused. And that's what happened in the confidential section of this meeting. So I'm going to ask that the Chief Executive see that that is investigated fully and that appropriate sanctions are levied on the councillor responsible, because it's not the first time that standards of respect have slipped in this council, but I have to say it's a new low. And I would ask that particular member to reflect, and if they had any sense of humility, they would admit and own up to what they've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tennyson. I never heard anything, but I remember somebody had said that they heard something being said. However, it is up to the Ombudsman, so it would be up to yourselves or Councillor Lavery to go to the Ombudsman to seek this on that line. So thank you very much, members, and thank you very much for your indulgence in the November meeting. It was entertaining as ever. I wish you all safe home, and moving into Christmas, I hope you enjoy all the Christmas tree lights on, switch on. So thank you very much, members. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. All the best.
Thank you.